Welcome to the Betty Rocker Show, the place to be to nourish your mind, love your body, and rock your life. What's up, rock stars? Coach Betty Rocker here. Welcome. It's so great to get to spend some time with you today. Thanks for joining me. And what we are doing today is a super fun activity that I hope really sets you up in the mindset of having an incredibly successful year. And we're going to spend some time today planning our first quarter of the year when it comes to our health and fitness. Now, what will help you make this the most successful use of your time is if you have this free worksheet that I have created for you. It's the main character energy outline, and you can get that using the link that I've added here in the show notes, or you can just go to bit.ly, that's bit.ly/2025 main, as in main character. So why don't you grab that worksheet now, and if you can't print it out, don't worry, you could also just use it as a guideline and write these down on your own piece of paper. But once you have that in front of you, I want you to take a look at January, because that's where I'm starting. And we're gonna really set you up for success this year. I want you to think about this year as a book that's gonna tell the story of your life. And each month is like a chapter in this book. And that's gonna give us these really manageable time frames to work within. And you can take this template and apply it to pretty much any aspect of your life that you want. But I'm gonna focus today on our health and fitness because, of course, that's what I can help you with the most. And we are going to work on putting together an outline for this main character of your life, which is, of course, you. And we're gonna set her up for success. And I want to start with January. So if you look on the last 2 pages of this free worksheet that I've given you, you will find some ideas that I have listed out to give you inspiration for filling in some of the blanks. But we're gonna do it together, and I'll give you some suggestions as you're listening along, but do have that in front of you so that you can take a look at it and reference it as we go. Now, the first thing that I wanted you to maybe identify for January is how you want to feel. And I find that this is just really helpful as a focal point, because if we're thinking about ourselves, almost if we just take a step back and picture how do we want ourselves to feel? How do we want this heroine of our journey to get to feel in January? A lot of us have that new energy, that new excitement that a year brings, right? And how can we really harness that and use it to do good things for ourselves? So maybe you feel inspired. Maybe you have a word that you are already thinking about this year that you want to put down for January. And feel free to even pause the podcast and just take a few moments to write down something about how you want to feel if it's a little bit more in depth than just a single word. Please feel free to make this time your time. That's why you're here listening, right? You're taking this time for yourself because you deserve it. You are the main character after all. We want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. So some of the examples of things that I have in the inspiration sheet here are empowered, strong, healthy, brave, going after my goals, optimistic, embracing each day, and of course I have main character energy because that's one of mine. So I just wanted to share that. So once you've written down how you want to feel in January, we'll move down to the next one. And this one's important. This is your exercise plan. I find that it's really helpful to have an exercise plan in place so that we have a defined program that we can progress through as we go. And what's nice about having an exercise plan is that it's really an action plan. And then a lot of our other goals sort of fall into place around this focal point in our lives. So maybe you already have an exercise plan in mind for January. And if so, I want you to write that down. We have in Rock Your Life so many different exciting challenges, and some of the names of them are really fun and inspirational. inspirational. So one of the sheets in this document I've given you is a list of all of the different Rock Your Life challenges that we have as of the end of 2024. And I have them listed in accordance with how long they are. So we have challenges that are 15 to 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, 25 to 35, 30 to 40, 45 plus, all of these different time frames, because we know that when people commit to a program that is within the time frame that they can attain, then they're successful and they're consistent. And that's really what it's all about. So whether it's one of my Rock Your Life challenges that you're planning to do this January, or it's something else, I just want you to write down your exercise plan in that box on our worksheet so that you have that in place and you know what you're setting up your main character to do to take care of her fitness in this month. Now, the next one down is our eating focus. And this one's really important, as you know. And of course, exercise and nutrition do go hand in hand, because we don't really see the results of our workouts if we're not eating enough food for our needs, if we're not eating enough protein for our tissue repair, if we're not eating enough carbs for our energy levels, if we're not eating enough healthy fat to support things like absorbing our fat-soluble vitamins, our brain health, producing hormones. There's so many needs that our body has for these key nutrients, and we want to make sure that we're just being mindful of eating them in our whole foods as we go. So I gave you a column in one of your worksheets of inspirational ideas for your healthy eating goals. And I find that sometimes in January, what happens is we get a little bit overwhelmed by trying to pile too many ideas on top of ourselves and trying to do too much. And this is a thing that happens throughout the year where we sort of fall off track because we've maybe overcommitted and we get discouraged. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to pick like 7 different healthy eating goals in January. I want you to pick a couple, maybe 1 or 2 main ones, because what's going to happen is that you're naturally focused on those goals. You're going to start to stack other habits around those goals as they become part of your natural routine as you evolve throughout this year, right? And that's going to be really helpful because we're stacking these habits and we don't even notice that they're things we have to work at anymore once they become part of our normal routine. So just pick 1 or 2. So I'll share a couple that I put on the column in your worksheet. One is eating slowly and mindfully. And this might not sound like a big deal, but actually if we chew our food more mindfully, if we sit and enjoy our meal as opposed to like being distracted when we're eating, it's actually better for our nutrient absorption and our digestive process. If we're chewing more effectively and more often, that digestion actually begins in our mouth with some of those enzymes in our mouth and the salivary amylase, for example. And it's important to be in that calmer state when we're eating. So that's just one that I personally really like for January because, you know, that's something that I'm focused on. Here's some more of the ones. Not snacking mindlessly. This might be on the top of your mind, for example, if you had a lot of holiday foods in December. Maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to snack mindlessly. You know, just write down 2 things, probably max here, for your eating focus for January. And of course, you can take inspiration from and do as many as you want. But again, remember, it's all or something. That's what gets us to the end. And I don't want to overwhelm our main character with too many things. This is fitness and health are just one aspect of her life. She's a complex woman here. We want to just set her up with some simple things that she can focus on, like an exercise plan, 1 or 2 focuses for her healthy eating, how she's going to feel. And then this last one here is a bonus goal. And we all have these like bonus goals around our health, I think kind of by default, but I'd like you to really, just write it down for January. You might want to be thinking about walking a little bit more after you eat, for example. Or maybe you are working on something with your healthcare practitioner that's an ongoing process. That's a legitimate bonus goal that serves your health, right? You might maybe want to make time to see friends more frequently. That's a really important mental health bonus goal as well. So like whatever kind of comes to mind, and you can get some great inspiration and ideas from the bonus sheet that I've given you in that column of the bonus health goal ideas. So again, feel free to pause this video at any time, pause this podcast, and simply write down what you want to add for each of these columns. And then we'll move on to February. Now, you might be thinking, well, gosh, it's not even February yet, but I'm already doing this worksheet for February. Well, that's because a great story always starts with a great outline. And you've probably heard the saying that failing to plan is planning to fail. And I like that reminder, but I also don't think that any of us really set out to fail, right? We don't mean to not have a plan. It's just that we don't often get an opportunity like this to sit down and just write down an outline. And that's exactly why we're here doing this. And I don't want you to lose this momentum that January and the new year really brings. I want you to just step into February with a plan in place and just really ready to rock. And so I want you once again to either take inspiration from my little sheet here in this worksheet about how you want to feel coming into February. How do we want to set up our main character to feel in February of this year? I want you to go ahead and write down a word or a phrase or something that inspires you or makes you feel excited to be yourself in February. Some of the other words that I have on this sheet are flossom, inspired, balanced, aligned and focused, kind to myself and others. So there's just some few ideas, and you can write your own, or you can take some inspiration from what I've added for you. Feel free. And then of course our next thing to do is to write down our exercise plan for February. And so for me in my January exercise plan, I wrote down the fast abs and booty challenge, which is one of our challenges in Rock Your Life. So in February, I'm going to write down the fast abs and booty challenge part 2, because I do a lot of like part 1, part 2, and there's a sequel to the challenge that you have in there. And there's all these fun progressions that you can do, because of course our body adapts to the load that we give it, and we want to continue to challenge ourselves. So there's lots of really great opportunities in different time ranges with different amounts of equipment. Some are body weight, some are with home workout equipment. We have equipment that you find in a gym, or things like barbells and heavier equipment if you have a garage gym or you want to take it to the gym. All of these different options for you. And it's so important to have that plan in mind. And you might not be quite done with your January challenge in February, and it's totally fine. What you want to do is have a plan for what you're going to start at some point in February, so that you can aim for that, so that you just step right into February seamlessly from January, and you're going to continue to progress with the goals that you set at the beginning of the year. Now let's move on to our eating focus. And here's another opportunity to continue to stack the habits that you started back in January. So I'm going to read you a couple of more inspirational ideas from this worksheet that you have that you can grab from our podcast. One is cooking for myself more often. And that one is something that I've really been embracing. And it's just so helpful because it's become as much of a non-negotiable to me as my workout plan. And it's really given me that foundation that I need to have that great energy and have my body just continue to respond to my workouts, because I know I'm in control of what's in my food. A couple more, keeping my shaker bottle with protein powder handy for a quick snack. So this helps if you're on the go a lot and maybe you just need something quick for energy, so you don't revert to snacking on foods that are just available in a vending machine, for example. And it's not like that's wrong to have some of those foods, but if you have a base of protein, then that'll just like give your brain some of the amino acids it needs. It'll give your muscle tissue some of the amino acids it needs. There's many things in your body that are using amino acids from the protein foods we eat. So that's just one idea. There's so many other great ones on this healthy focus ideas for eating. So pick a couple that maybe sound good, or even just pick one, that sounds like an important supportive focus for you, and know that you're probably going to continue to habitually do the things you started in January. And then of course the last thing here in February is a bonus goal. And one that I wrote here for myself that I'm always interested in the winter months is boosting my immune system. So doing things for myself and my health that boost my immune system. And sometimes that's as simple as listening to my body, so I'm not overtrained and doing workouts when my energy is lower, or not pushing as hard when I've had a poor night's sleep, for example. So things that will boost your immune system too include eating your healthy meals regularly, and taking it easy when you need to, and getting to bed when you can. And those might alone be the right bonus goal for you. I do have some bonus goals written down on your healthy ideas sheet here that are about our sleep hygiene. So anything that comes to mind for you that feels like it would be a great bonus goal for February is exactly what I want for you and for your main character. And then we're going to go ahead and transition to March. And this is going to be the last one we do together here today, because we're just planning the first quarter of this year together in this podcast, and I want you to then really have this to use as a focal point, and then we can come back here towards the end of March and plot the next 3 months, the next quarter of the year together. So how do we want to set ourselves up to feel in March? I would invite you once again to take a look back at the sheet, the worksheet that has all of the fun examples, and I'll read you a few more inspirational examples. Maybe you want to feel healthy. Maybe that's like a way that you want to set your main character up to feel in March. Maybe you want to feel unstoppable or powerful, or maybe you want to feel forgiving. Maybe you want to feel optimistic, or you want to have some rock star energy. All of these are great things to put down, and you might have something already in mind for what you would like to have in March for your feeling that you're going to bring for your main character. And these can always change and evolve, but it is fun at the beginning of each month to take this worksheet out that you filled out, take a look at it, see if it needs any adjustments, and use it to succeed in this month. This is just an outline, right? Anytime we're writing a book or anytime we're writing a story, we have the outline to sort of give us the guidelines, but then we can always color outside the lines. We know that there's probably going to be some plot twists that we can't explain or expect, but having this outline is going to really help you stay on track in things that matter to you. That's why we're doing it. So when it comes to that exercise plan, I'm going to take a look back at the Rock Your Life challenges again here, and I'm going to put down the Ripped Rockstar challenge. That's a super fun one. And oh my gosh, there's so many fun challenges inside Rock Your Life of all different lengths and styles. And I just find that my Rock Your Life members have a lot of success because they're always looking forward to the next workout in their challenge, and they're crossing each day off as they go in our live interactive calendars. And then they're also like excited about the next plan. And so they're able to really see amazing progress over time because they always have the plan and then the next plan. And if they're not sure or they get stuck or they need some support, the coaches and I are there to help them because they're part of our membership. And that's a huge part of all of our success. And I think one of the things, as you know, I've been very committed to in the last several years is supporting women in different life stages. So we have a lot of demands on our time as women, and sometimes we need a different schedule for our workouts or our training than what is just, provided. So I have a lot of different scheduling options for different challenges, and I also have those custom scheduling and suggestions for how to use the right scheduling option for you if you're in the menopause years, perimenopause or postmenopause, because we do need some specific sort of leeway with our training to recovery time as we get into those life stages that really help us see better results with our training. So just some really good important stuff to consider. Now, once you've written down your exercise plan for March, I want you to think about what your eating focus will be. So take a look at that sheet and maybe choose one goal or two if you are inspired or something feels like it would go together really well. Now for me in March, it's the spring is coming on and I'm thinking about more vegetables, and I'm always thinking about vegetables, but March just brings that to mind even more to the forefront. So I'll take some inspiration from my sheet and I'm going to focus on my fiber intake. And another one that I wrote down was remove tempting foods. I love to host dinner parties and have family over when I'm around, and I often will have tempting things in my cupboards after I've had a party with my family, and so I have to remember to use it up, give it away, send it home with people so that I don't have these tempting things around that I'm just going to snack on like endlessly after the special event has finished up. So maybe that's something that is inspiring to you as well, or maybe it's something else. But the fiber focus is also a really important one because of course we want to really support our healthy gut and our digestive flow and all of our fiber-rich foods that we get from our whole grains, our fruits, our veggies. These are really important to include in our diet. And they're also really important, we were just touching a little bit on the menopause years, but as we get into those years of our lives, fiber becomes something that kind of is a non-negotiable, right? It's really important to support the gut microbiome at every age, but especially in these menopause years. One of the reasons, of course, is because we have this really interesting specialized section of our gut called the estrobolome, which helps process excess estrogen out of our system. And keeping our hormones balanced, even as they begin to change, is a really important part of going through that stage of life called perimenopause. So just something to focus on if you want to at any point is your fiber intake. And let's move on to our bonus goals for March. We are going to maybe get some inspiration from the worksheet that I gave you on that last page and take a look at what you might like to include in your bonus goals. Now, I had touched on sleep as one of the things that I include in here as an idea. I'm going to write down prioritizing my bedtime. I know that my main character sometimes struggles with her bedtime creeping back further and further as the year progresses. And so I want to really make sure I focus back in on that goal and make sure that that's something that's still really important to me, that's part of my outline for March, is that my bedtime is just as important. And there's some other fun, inspiring ideas on your worksheet. So maybe journaling more is something that you want to make sure you include more of, or maybe you want to I've got stuff about including a yoga practice or stretching more around your workouts. There's a lot of different things that you could do that maybe fall by the wayside as life gets busy. So we can always refocus on these goals and come back to them. So that concludes your first quarter planning session. And thank you so much for taking the time to enjoy and do that activity with me. I would really love to hear any highlights of what's coming up for your main character. So be sure to share them with me in the comments. Of course, you can go to the show notes page over on thebettyrocker.com and find this podcast episode and the link to download this guide, this worksheet for today's workshop. And you can also get access to Rock Your Life, which is my amazing women's fitness community where we have all of our challenge programs and we're constantly adding new ones. We're teaching new classes every week that you can drop into or check out at any time in our class library, which is open 24/7. We have hundreds of healthy recipes. We have so many great ways to support you in achieving all of your health and fitness goals, giving you that accountability piece, that support that you deserve, and really that focal point that you can build and stack all of these healthy habits around so that you have a plan, not just for right now, for this month, but to look forward to for each chapter that you write for your main character this year as you progress. So thanks again for spending time with me today. I hope to see you inside Rock Your Life and in any of my programs, my friends. As always, I'm Betty Rocker, and you are so awesome, blossom, and amazing. Happy New Year.
This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Brie Singer, Betty Rocker Inc., and the producers disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. Before starting a new exercise, fitness or health protocol, or if you think you have a medical problem, always consult a licensed physician.